in a Christian household. And I always saw that big example from my mom. She was the one that I always saw example. And I always pray, for my father. I'm like, look, even though he's a little bit like, apartado, pero Dios, yo pido oración. And I know that God could touch their hearts late, tarde o temprano. Pero por eso yo sigo en la iglesia, no tanto para que me vean, no. Lo hago en primer lugar por amor al Señor, pero yo sé que mi testimonio, yo estando en la iglesia, yo sirviendo al Señor, y aparte de sirviendo, viendo los cambios en mi vida, eso es lo que impacta más, porque yo puedo ir a la iglesia, pero si yo sigo igual y estoy una cosa aquí y afuera sigo lo mismo, that's a big red flag. So the beauty is change, porque el cambio en mí puede impactar a personas en mi familia que tal vez saben de Dios, pero no lo conocen. Pero si ven, Iracema,
I don't know where to start.
Say it.
I don't know where to start. But kind of going back to what you said, that like the way that we live is also like a really big thing that makes people curious and want to know, like, change, change on how we used to be before we were with Christ to after when we're with Christ is something so impactful to people who knew you before you were with Christ.
Mm-hmm.
And that can impact not only your family, but your friends and the people that are around you in the world in general, And how I said, like, testimonies can, like, give you a fresh air, like a breath of inspiration and motivation. But not only that, it can, like, attract people to come. Testimonies are the proof of God's love. And
Mm-hmm.
I think that's so important because, oh my gosh, I lost my train of thought. But testimonies are important, to bring people in. And I think that's why it's so important for us to take care of how we're living and how we carry ourselves and really show the world, not us, but God, to show the world God's love and Jesus. And how I said last week, we should learn to deny ourselves, deny our flesh, because at the end of the day, our flesh basically hates us. Our flesh doesn't like us. Our flesh wants us to sin, to rebel against God. But if we deny those thoughts, if we deny those intrusive thoughts, we can reach the mercy of God. And I want to share something, how I said that, like, the way that we carry ourselves is very important. I've had a lot of friends who, when I was in middle school, I was going through, like, an identity crisis, which is honestly such a real thing for teenagers because, like, as you're growing up, you're trying to, like, find your touch, find your style, and your personality's evolving, your body's changing, everything about you is changing, and like you're going through like an identity crisis. You don't know who it is, who you are. Yeah, that's my second birthday. But I remember, like, that year I was asking God, like, because I felt so heavy in my heart. I was like, Lord, I feel like I have no purpose. I feel like I don't know who I am. I don't know what my purpose is. I don't know, like, why am I on earth? Like, what is my purpose of living? Like, I didn't know at that point. I didn't know, like, who I wanted to be, who I was going to be. And I kept questioning myself, and I kept, like, feeling kind of down because I felt like I wasn't, like, moving forward. And that was until God spoke to me and said, your purpose is simply to live for me, And obviously, like, I took that into my heart, and after that, like, that's why identidad is such a big thing to me, because I was questioning my identity, and I went through so many things, and I was doing so many things that weren't part of the identity that God wants for you. And how I said that identity that God wants for you is for you to live for him. And by living for him is you denying your flesh, just like how Jesus denied his flesh. And that's so important because I feel like sometimes we like get so stuck on the idea that like Jesus is like is literally God, but we don't realize that he was a human too. He came to earth and he lived so many years just like us, just how we're living. He lived those years and went through basically the same things. He lived through temptation. And I said this last week too, like he felt those emotions. That's why John 11:35, where it says that Jesus himself was weeping, because he saw all of his friends weeping. He saw all of his friends grieving for the loss of his friend, and he felt that just how sad you are, just how tempted you are, just how much of a sinner you are. Jesus understands where you're coming from. And that's so important for your life to take into consideration, because we cannot just think that Jesus is God. Yes, Jesus is God, but Jesus was also a human that went through the same things that you're going through.